everyone tuned in. This is the Men, Church, Stuff podcast. It's the show where brothers-in-law DJ Culp and Brad Coleman talk about what it's like being Christian men in today's society. Having spent our entire lives immersed in church culture, we want to share our experiences with other men who are willing to listen. We'll talk life stuff, church stuff, man stuff, and, well, stuff. Let's get to it. Greetings, listeners here, there, and everywhere, all across the land. This is the Men Church Stuff podcast. I'm one of your hosts, DJ Culp. As always, here with my beloved brother-in-law, Brad Coleman. Happy Wednesday, Brad. What's up, man?
Just drinking coffee and just now realizing what the Amazon package that Hannah put on the table is. So I'm pretty excited.
Oh, nice. And what do you got? What's waiting for you?
So, we do the family business. So I bought a new light box because the one we had to take pictures is 12 by 12 by 12, 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches. And then I keep running into these situations where I have bigger groups or bigger stuff. So I bought one that's 32 by 32 by 32. Like I should be able to put Hannah in there. Sitting and take a picture. So, yeah. And it was supposed to get here tomorrow. But I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'm sitting here going, nice. What is that big long thing that she put on? And I was like, oh.
That's awesome.
As you were counting down, I was like, oh, that's what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah, so I love when Amazon orders come in. Like, I find myself almost being like having more anticipation for those than like Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting an Amazon present. It's coming. It's coming today. It's early.
And it's what I want because I ordered it.
Because I ordered it. That's yeah, right. I don't have to like, oh, thank you.
What if I don't like it? No, of course I like it.
Yeah. And we all know Brad. Listeners, if you're new to the show, Brad is the modern equivalent of Bob Newhart. If you're not new listeners to the show, then you'll be familiar with that Brad's version of oh my goodness, I can't believe that you did this for me. Thank you so much. Is this is great.
I was like, that's just it. I mean, that was exactly what I was expressing about the Amazon package just now. That's about as excited as I get.
It's true. Yeah.
Like, and even when I go back and listen to it, I'm like, oh, wow, I don't sound very excited at all.
Yeah. That's right. No, you don't.
But I am. It's the words. It's the words. Ignore the tonality and all that.
So, listeners, this is episode 44. We thank you so much for tuning in. Today's topic, Brad and I were talking earlier. Today's topic is that God has us where we are to benefit people spiritually, which is big and long, and it's going to get deep. I suppose it'll get deep. It might not. I can't imagine that it wouldn't, though. I mean, since we're talking about that. But Brad, to open kind of the topic up, what is your experience? It's and I'll share too, but I think this would be really cool perspective difference with you as a senior pastor. What has been your experience of people's view of like their Christian life in the workplace?
I think you probably have two major types of people, and they're kind of on separate ends. I think you have some that they are looking like that's part of that's a ministry for them, and they're always prayerfully just they're praying for their coworkers. Mm-hmm. They're going to share their faith at some point, and again, hopefully in an organic way. Don't trap them on the elevator on the way to the meeting. But I think there's those people where it's like, my work is my mission. And I would agree with those people. And then I think on the other side, it's like, oh, I can't talk about that at work. This like
Yeah.
this work. I got to keep my work separate. Now there there are some times where it's like, okay, when it's like you can't, like, well, my wife's a teacher, right?
Hmm.
She can only share her faith openly if it's initiated by students. So if a
Okay.
student says, "Hey, I go to church and and I believe in Jesus," then she can say, I go to church and my husband's a pastor and we believe in Jesus too.
Yeah.
And but the student has to initiate the conversation and kind of
So
lead the
so
conversation.
her school district will actually allow her, even at the student's request, her school district will allow
Mhm.
her to expound on that.
Well, so here's the thing. Legally, they have to. Now, I know
Yeah.
that there may be places that don't, but legally, they have to
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
have that freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and so when
Right.
you're hindering that now, again, she can't be the person who's pushing into that conversation.
Right.
Um, and I think
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of interesting stuff there. I just remember a professor in college, and I think I've mentioned this before, maybe even on a podcast. Dr. Dave Eakin. He said, this is my name, and here's my titles, and here's all my degrees. And he said, but most people just call me Dr. Dave. So that's good. I'm good with that. He was a Christian, and one of the first things that he said, "I'll let you know, I'm a Christian. Here, a professor. Again, I went to a secular university,
Hmm.
Eastern Carolina University." He said, so, and some of my colleagues don't like me even telling you that, but we're going to be respectful in here. And this is the other thing is he's like, I'm not going to push my beliefs on you, but they will come out.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the things that some of my colleagues don't agree with is they want to bash Christianity in their classes. It was great was he was a science professor. They want to
Hmm.
bash
Nice.
Christianity in in their classes. And so and I argue with them because the same law, that states that I can't be here trying to make all my students Christians, proselytize.
Yeah. Right. Good
uh,
word.
the other side of that is you're not supposed to be able to bash my religion either. So,
Right.
I mean, he's stating all this because he says, I'm just letting you know we're not going to do that in
Yeah.
this class. So, our opinions can certainly come out, but we're not going to sit here and call Christianity stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm also not, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but like I'm also not going to sit up here and preach a sermon to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Right.
but I really appreciated that. So, I mean, again, there's circumstances where I think you just live out your faith. You know, I think about like in some of the countries where they can't share their faith, right? Where it's illegal, like you will die,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you may die. You probably get arrested. You're standing on a corner, talking to people. Um, I think it was the former Soviet Union. I was reading this story, and what these Christians would do was they would get on like a public transport, and one would ask the other about Jesus and about these questions. So they
Ah,
kind of like they're sharing the gospel through people overhearing. And I was like,
yeah.
it's brilliant. Still risky. Because
It
again, in some
is.
of those places, like even, talking about that, but again, there's that kind of, it was less risky
Right.
because, the person that you're talking to is not going to turn you in because they're your Christian brother. So they'd be like, hey,
Yeah.
but I
So
heard
yeah.
that
So they
maybe you're a Christian. And I was like, yeah, why?
yeah.
What?
So
Well, tell me more about this Jesus.
they fabricated a safe environment.
I love
That's
it.
brilliant, dude. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. All right. So so your two categories then are basically, I don't know. I think for me, the way that I view that kind of in my vernacular, the way I think about it would be like active and passive, maybe.
Yeah. And again, you can add all kinds of other stuff. I think there's some people that they're just, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think in a positive sense, you got active and passive.
Yeah, in a positive sense, sure. Yeah,
we're sharing the gospel, or we're
right.
seeking to share the gospel, or we're seeking to be that light.
Yeah.
So let's give most people the benefit of the doubt that I want other people to know Jesus. Because if you don't, I think maybe you need to go back and make sure you know him.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's right.
I'm not saying like, not to the people like, oh, some people are scared to death and all that. That's not what we're talking about. But like, if you don't care that other people go to hell, then maybe you need to make sure you got Jesus, because that's a big deal. But
so I would say I definitely agree with the first person, that you were talking about, that is very active, that's very like overt about their Christianity.
Secret
to be, I mean, if I'm
Christian secret,
dude, if I'm honest though, my skepticism and my cynicism might be suspicious of a person who is like uber overt, unless
I think you go ahead. And I was like, I don't want to cut you off. I think you got to be you.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Because I know some people that, I mean, like, they're so like just raw because that's their personality. They're also like that if they're talking about their favorite football team, and they're also like,
so
Dr. Pepper is the drink. No.
Yeah.
So I think if that's your personality, then be you. Be who God made you to be. Share Jesus the way that God made you. So if you're like super introverted and I'm just going to go out and say, God didn't call you to be that person.
Right.
He called that person to be that person.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I say, like, the skepticism and the cynicism of someone who is just blatantly overt makes me think, like, what's your catch? You know what I mean?
Well, and sometimes I think it's guilt, and not that they're trying to spread guilt, but they have guilt.
They have it.
I'm supposed to share, and that's my job, and that's and so I'm doing this because that's what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. Because Jesus said, if you deny me, then
right.
And so I got to go every person that I see, I
have to keep talking about it. Right.
And I don't think God called us all to do that.
I knew a couple people who did that in college, but for the most part, the majority of people that I have been around are not those folks. Yeah. And it might be my skepticism that keeps me away from them. But
and again, I'm learning more and more that I'm an introvert. That I've been lying to myself for all these years, thinking that I was extroverted. And it's like, even the farther I look back, I'm like, oh no, I'm not at all.
No, dude, you're not an extrovert. I'm an extrovert.
Yeah. I people out, and I didn't realize it. Like I do. I'm like, oh, I've actually reached my people meter today.
I'm done people, and right.
I mean, and sometimes God goes, no, you got one more in you.
People meter.
I mean, you got one more in you, because I need you to have.
That's funny.
To be with this. And sometimes, sometimes God, I think, brings those to me at the moment where I'm like, no, I am fully out. He's like, no, I'm your strength.
So I'm your strength. Here's more people.
Yeah. But most of the time, but so I think I felt a lot of guilt over the years because I'm not that super extroverted. Like, I don't run into people in Walmart and start sharing the gospel.
Right. Yeah.
At least not on a regular basis. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. As long as you do it in a
it's got to be authentic. It,
Yeah,
it,
and
it really,
authentic, right? Not
as you were saying,
forced.
it really needs to be, it really needs to be you. And as I was mentioning, I agree with you that there's the overt personality,
Mhm.
and if I know the person, and I mean that does play a role in it, but if I know the
Yeah.
person, then I can I can work around the fact that they have that kind of personality. Because again, like you were saying, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But the
So,
other person that 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 I've at least I've seen, and I think I think certainly in my profession there are, and I have to say I need to give a caveat here. There are two scenarios that I find myself in my profession because, so listeners, if you're new to the show, I work at a small Christian university in Jackson, Tennessee. So, I mean, is everybody here, is everybody that goes to this university a Christian? Statistics would say no, but with their mouth, more than likely, every single person would say yes or close to yes, right?
Mhm.
But when I work, when I freelance as a musician, that number plummets. And so I would definitely say that the other person that I have found
Mhm.
that that kind of sees what their role is spiritually in their profession, it's very, if it's not backdoor, it's virtually non-existent. Like it's almost like anecdotal.
Mhm.
It's just kind of um what's a good word for it? It's sort of off the cuff, almost like impromptu if it comes up, that kind of thing. So um yeah, so something that I've always, and when I say always, I mean, Brad, I would say, dude, back to like middle school, definitely high school, I know for a fact, but maybe even middle school. Something that I've always thought about is like, is work a ministry, or is work just work? Like, is a job actually just a job? And the whole, I don't want to unpack this, certainly not in this episode, anyways, but like the whole separation of church and state, like, which I know is, it has been blown way out of context. I read a whole book on that, but um the like, is a job just a job? One of the things that interests me is how people approach their role as a Christian in the workplace. And Brad, I think you're a great person to ask about it, because like, as a senior pastor, your interaction with them, or at least your perspective when you interact with him, is going to be different than me, because I'm not a full-time pastor. Actually, I'm
Well,
not a
I mean,
pastor at all, right?
in my workplace, I better be telling people about Jesus,
No, that's
or
not what I
I'm
meant.
real
No,
bad at
I'm
my
not.
job.
Yeah, right.
No,
Yeah,
I know,
that's very true.
I
I meant
know.
like,
I'm just being
yeah.
scared.
Like, Brad totally misunderstood me. No, he did
Yeah,
not. Jerk.
yeah.
So, have you found? Let's do this. I'm gonna give a statement. The topic is, as I mentioned earlier, is that God has us where we are to benefit people spiritually. So
Mhm.
if that is in fact a truth, which I
Mhm.
think that it is,
Mhm.
um, have you found have you found that people do or do not believe that?
Mhm.
And I want to make a distinction for our listeners, at least, that my primary perspective that I have seen people approach from
Mhm.
is, I'm not a pastor, so I'm not as responsible as a pastor is. So I want to take that. If you're okay with it,
Yeah.
Brad, I would actually like to take that definition out,
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
and then ask, so not considering that as part of the perspective, have you found have you found that people do or do not believe that God has them where they are to benefit people spiritually?
I think most people who are are Christians who are maturing,
Uh-huh.
who are growing in Christ, which we should be,
Yeah.
right? I think most people would agree that God is using them as salt and light, right? So city built on a hill, not to be hid. So I think most people would agree that they're supposed to do that, that they're supposed to be that.
Yeah.
Really, right there's two different things, right? Things that we're supposed to do and things that we're supposed to be.
Okay.
And so I would say that I think most people would agree, yes, that on some level at least, I'm supposed to be the light to my neighbor, to my co-workers. So that now, to what extent I'm supposed to do that and what that looks like,
right?
I think that's all over, all over the place. Hey, drumming on the Amazon package over there. So, but I think for me, the conversation. So personally, over the years, I've done a lot of different ways to share the gospel, because I want people to get the gospel, because I love Jesus, because I want people to get saved. But again, more and more understanding I'm an introvert, and that doesn't get me out of sharing the gospel.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I'm probably going to approach it in a different way than an extrovert.
Yeah.
I know guys that can turn what I would call turn a corner. Right? They can turn a corner in conversation, go to Jesus very, very naturally, so easily. Just they're there. Some of us struggle.
Yeah.
More than others. And I think that's okay. Because I think one of the things we need to realize is it's God's work, right? And He's prepared us for it. So He's going to put us in situations and give us opportunities. Now, I think we need to be intentional, but I'm really big on the idea, and I think it's biblical, that it then forced. Microphone just died.
Yeah, your microphone.
We need to be more organic than forced in the way that we do things. Like that we're doing things because we're sharing Christ, because we're abiding in Him. If I'm living in Christ, if I'm growing in Christ, then what's naturally going to come out?
Right.
Because if I'm reading a book about, hobbits and wizards,
right,
then I'm probably in conversation going to start talking, whether I realize it or not, about hobbits and wizards and rings of power. Right? It's going to come out. So if I'm abiding in Jesus and I'm getting in His Word, I'm talking to Him in prayer, I'm seeking to listen to Him and guiding His Spirit, I think those things are going to naturally come out a lot more than not. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be intentional and look for the opportunities, but I do think it's supposed to take some of that pressure off.
Yeah, right.
But it's God's work, and He's going to use us. Like, I would say some of the biggest times that God has used me, again, like as a pastor now, at the church building, of course I'm talking about Jesus. I'm doing a Bible study, I'm preaching, and doing counseling, whatever. But like, I think some of the biggest moments outside have been in a coffee shop when somebody just started talking to me. Now, which I got to adjust to a little bit.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry, sir, but I don't guess you know that my people meter's full.
And times things that I would just call divine appointments, or somebody broke down on the side of the road. I would say I saw a kid break down on the side of the road, and I was gone past. It was a 4-lane, so I had to go up and turn around. Yeah. And when I turned around and come back, I saw that he was walking to the gas station that was pretty close with a gas can, and kid was probably like 16 years old. So I was like, okay. So I turned back around and went back to the way I was going. And I went to Walmart. And the whole time I'm in Walmart, all I could think about is this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't need to stop. He's taken care of. He's got it, you know. And I'm like, so I did one of those things where, again, I'm not suggesting necessarily this, but I was like, okay, God, fine. If he's still there
Mm-hmm.
when I'm going back by, I'll double back again. And if he's
All
still
right.
there after
All
I
right,
get to double
Gideon.
back,
Yeah.
yeah,
If the sponge is wet.
then I'll stop.
Yeah.
And so he was. And so I just, you know, he was back in the car, but it wasn't going anywhere. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, you doing okay? He's like, yeah. My dad's on the way. I was like, okay, well, you know, I just wanted to make sure that you were okay. I was like, saw you walking to gas. He's like, yeah, I put it in there. It's still not working, but my dad knows all about stuff. He's on his way. And I was like, okay, just make sure you're good. He's like, yeah, I really appreciate you stopping. So I'm like, okay. So now I was like, well, have a good day, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I'm walking back to my truck, and I don't always, but I had these Gospels of John that we've given out before. I had some of those in my truck. I really felt the Spirit say, "You need to give him one of those Gospels, John." And I'm like,
but I already said bye, God.
Yeah, like
I don't need to crank the conversation back up.
Yeah, it's like no, I did what you told me.
That's right.
To do. I peopled. I got re-people.
I peopled more.
You know, and again, I just imagine God being like, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, you feel the Spirit like, give him the Gospel of John.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take the Gospel of John, I walk back up. Now, I will tell you, again, here's this introverted man who's socially awkward. So sometimes I will pull the pastor card. Like, oh, hey, I'm the pastor. First Baptist Murphy.
Yeah.
We give out these Gospels of John. It's just, you know, hey, if you're ever looking for, you know, church, you know, you're welcome. But here's this Gospel of John. He's like, oh, I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah. Did I share the gospel with him? Yes, in the form of the Gospel of John. Literally.
Yeah, right. Yeah, literally, I shared it with him.
And in this entirety of John, yeah. So you can't argue that I didn't share the gospel. Now, I will say that in that, you know, too, there's like some. I think it's in the front. There's like an explanation, you know, real quick of like, you know, sin, separation from God and stuff. They're really neat. Put out by the Pocket Testament League. Great little resource to give, especially again, hey, you're an introvert. Now, I don't know that kid. I gotta be honest, if he walked, this is like 2 years ago or something. If he walked into the church, I wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't recognize him because my interaction with him was like that.
Yeah. You saw him twice though. You know, you talked to him twice, Brad.
But God's Spirit told me to do it. I felt that draw to it. Matter of fact, I would argue with just about anybody that it was God's Spirit because I was arguing because I didn't want to. And I was like, nope, I don't want to stop.
Yeah, right.
Nope, I don't want to people. Nope, I certainly don't want to people with the same people again.
Yeah, right.
And look like, you know. Like,
I forgot. Yeah, right.
Hey, you know. This is awkward. I hate awkward.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like awkward. Like, I feel awkward for the people that I feel like I might be making awkward.
That's a vicious cycle to be caught in there, Brad.
I'm an introvert. Like, yeah. I mean, the fact that I talk to anybody at all is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I mean, but do I believe that I was supposed to pass him and I was supposed to stop? Yes. I also believe that this is how good God is. I was probably supposed to do it at exactly the time that I did it. And God knew he's going to have to wrestle with me. So it's like, no. I factored in the 20 minutes that we were going to wrestle. So at just the right time, you'd be there.
Right.
I believe he's that good. But divine appointments is what I call them. And somebody I had one with a person in college where they said, hey, I believe this is a divine appointment. And it hooked me up with this ministry, which still called Jericho Road, which we did in at Eastern, which was an amazing ministry that I got to be a part of, that I found out about because I ran into this person because something was closed that was like I was here to go to this event and the event wasn't there, and I just so happened to be at this corner and start talking to this lady who told me about this ministry, and she's like, I really believe it's a divine appointment. And I'm like, she was like, when God puts things together, she had to define what a divine appointment was. When God puts things together that we didn't plan. Oh yeah. No, I would totally agree. That's awesome. But I've been using that term ever since, because I see so many times with those divine appointments where, and I say, I love divine appointments. I don't always love them in the moment.
Yeah. Right.
Because sometimes I wrestle and go, no, I don't want you to do that. Because God will push us out of our comfort zone. But I love them because I can't be late for them and I can't miss them.
Right.
Because God has factored in all my stupidity, all my tardiness, all of my ignorance, and all of my struggle time, so that at just the right time, again, Esther, it's such a time as this, boom, where Jesus came at just the right time. So I think, one, in our workspaces, if we have a secular job or if we have a Christian job,
right?
Like, you're working at Christian university, we're looking for those divine appointments. We're looking to recognize them when they pop up. Again, because the beautiful thing about it is you're not going to miss it. I think the only way you miss a divine appointment is by not being spiritually ready so that God can set up some appointments.
Right.
So I think the more you abide in Him, the more you're seeking Him. And I think God wants us to ask too. I mean, I know that for some of us, it's easy for us to go, oh, God, just put some people in my path today that I can share your gospel with. And for some of us, it's like we're scared to death to say that prayer because God is probably going to answer it if we say that. Or like, I want to. And
or we'll pray it and we'll actually think, I mean, this probably ain't going to happen. So, so I can go ahead and pray this. Yeah.
I speak for the anxious crowd. We go, it's probably going to be somebody I don't want to talk to.
The anxious crowd.
Yeah.
The people that are laying in the floor fetal position, sucking their thumb. No. Yeah.
And God will use you too. And God will use you too.
Well, Brad, I just want you to know, man, I appreciate your positive spin on that question for sure. Because like when I wrote that question, I would like how have you found if people do or don't believe that, that God has placed them where they are to benefit people spiritually. Mm-hmm. My take for the majority of my life has been the opposite, has been that people, as you mentioned, people know that they should be speaking Jesus, but they don't. And when I say they don't, I think part of that, and I don't want to chase a rabbit necessarily, but I think part of that is that the church in our generation growing up anyways, and like I think things are changing, but in our generation, the church did a really bad job about explaining what evangelism really is versus what evangelism is for an evangelist. You know what I mean? Like, meaning that us in the workforce yes, I consider myself, am I in the sacred workforce? I guess, but as a musician, I consider myself more in the secular workforce than the sacred workforce. But for us in the workforce period that are not full-time ministers, my interpretation of evangelism growing up is that I had to operate and act like a full-time evangelist. So I had to step into, like, if I'm going to begin evangelizing, I have to step into the role of, those are pretty cool shoes. Hey, do you know Jesus? He loves you. He died for you. Like, and just like, I mean, barrel through. And is that evangelism? Yes, it is, obviously, but it's a very limited definition of it.
Well,
but my take really growing up is that people, do they know they should be? Yes. Do they? No. And I think the majority of the justification that I've heard, at least anecdotally that I've heard is is I don't either I'm not well equipped. I'm not equipped enough to talk about Jesus, or I like to tell people that we have a really good pastor.
Yep.
You know,
I will say I do tell people, look, I'm glad you invite people to church. Invite people to church. I encourage you to invite people to church, but more so invite people to Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I do think sometimes the mentality is my job is to get you to church so that my pastor can tell you about Jesus.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that even though that is one way, and like as a pastor, I hope and pray
highly encourage that, right? Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and hope and pray that it's effective, that people are, from the sermons that they're getting. But I think more people will truly get the gospel if it's a one-on-one conversation with somebody else. And I will tell you, one of the things that as a pastor, some people go, some people look at me like I got to say that because I'm a pastor. Like I tell my daughters, and I have all their life, you're beautiful and you're smart. Yeah. And sometimes I get, you have to say that because you're my dad. And I go, yes, I am your dad, but I don't have to say that.
Yeah, right.
There are plenty of people, there are plenty of dads who don't say that.
Yeah.
Now, Carrington probably gave the best argument one time, and she was like, yeah, but you're a good dad. It's like, well, I'm glad you think so, and I appreciate that. But that's still.
Do you want me to fill the shoes of a bad dad, or is that is that what you want?
I mean, I tell you you're smart because you're smart. I mean, if you're dumb as a rock, I'm going to find some other characteristic to
right. Yeah.
Point out.
You have nice shoes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally lost my thought.
I feel
circle back around. Like, what were you talking about?
Yeah, Brad. I feel that that there's a lot of people that attend church.
Yeah.
That prefer to what?
Just so here's yeah. How deep you want to go with this, DJ? How deep you want to go? Because I mean, like, all right, hang on.
All right,
pastoral here because he's about to rip a hole in the ozone.
Yeah, so I feel like there's a lot of people who attend church that prefer to attend church and hope that being a Christian, in fact, is enough. Existing as a Christian is enough. And I think, and I'm going to be honest, I think there are times in our lives where that is what people need. Because so follow me, if you will. Let's look at like the blatantly overt, boisterous Jesus, God, rah, 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 like that kind of evangelism. And I'm not knocking it, but the day and age that we live in now versus when you and I were growing up, and listeners, we don't know how like what the age span is, but I'm 41. Brad, you're 40, right? 40. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Brad and I are 40, 41 respectively. And when we were kids growing up, the big push was in fact like hard and fast share the gospel. Mm-hmm. And discipleship was left in the dust, was left like the redheaded stepchild, right? Mm-hmm. The day and age that we live in now, there's been so much of that people want to see more than words just kind of, vomit out of your mouth about what you believe, but they want to see you live it out. And so I honestly think, Brad, that sometimes the people in church that don't really want to talk about Jesus, but that think as long as I live like a Christian, that effect will rub off. I think sometimes that is in fact what people around them need. I just don't think that it's as many times as we want it to be.
So here's the whole. Attend church, go to church. So that's the problem with the thinking, because church is a place that I go. It's something that I attend.
Right.
Instead of who I am.
Right.
Like I am part of the body of Christ, which makes me part of the church.
Yeah.
So I don't go to church. I am the church.
Right.
And so again, we use the word church, and I do too. I wish I could get out of the vernacular, but I just don't think that's my calling in life to attack that and to totally change that. But I want to help people change their mentality. We come together as the church. We don't go to church. Now,
right.
I will
That's
say
correct.
it probably tomorrow. Be like, what church you go to? Or you guys go to church anywhere? So again, I'm not trying to be this big guy like knocking people, but the more that we can understand and the more that we can grasp that the church is who we are collectively in Christ as his
right.
body, and not a building or a denomination or even a group of people, you know, specific, but the church is all of us who are believers. And yes, we come together as a local gathering of the church. You know, we may call ourselves Southern Baptists or non-denominational or Methodist or Pentecostal or whatever, but we're all in the one, you know, we're all in the church. But again, when we look at that, right, if we frame it as church is somewhere I go, then church only happens on Sunday, maybe Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right.
But if we understand that the church is something that we are, you know, one of the things that I say, and I don't know when I started saying it, probably, but I've said it most of the time, I think, as a senior pastor. Matter of fact, the people that kind of just took over the sign ministry, because their sign has two sides. So one kind of faces the road and the other kind of faces the church.
Yeah.
And so I noticed they put on the sign basically what I think I say about every Sunday. Right. So to dismiss, I go, all right, as we sing this last song, let's all go be his church.
Mm.
Or let's all go be his church this week.
Yeah.
You know, so because that's one of the things that I want to remember and share with others is, again, I don't go to the church. Yes, that's what I say, but I am the church. We are the temple. We are so as we are out there, let's keep the lights on.
I've heard
let's
it.
Keep their light on.
I read it here recently that somebody said this and I mean I knew this, but it was a refreshing way to word it, that God you know, God sacrificed his son for our sins. Mm-hmm. and the death, crucifixion, resurrection of Jesus, right? The atonement, reconciliation, but he chooses us to continue the story, to continue the narrative. Mm-hmm. He tells his story through us. Mm-hmm. And chooses to use us as his vehicle to bring others to him. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a really refreshing way. Mm-hmm. Again, it's nothing new, right? I mean, but it's still just a nice reminder of how important not just lifestyle, but like, I mean, you know, really true belief, and then as you were mentioning, you know, action comes into play.
And you know, and one of the things that your dad's taught me a lot over the years. You know, when I came into your family, God hadn't called me to ministry. Right. Your dad is not the reason that God called me to ministry, but he's been one of my mentors all along the way. Mm-hmm. And he's taught me a lot of things, you know. And so one of the things, one of the points that I remember him making on more than one occasion, because I'm a lot like your dad in this way, I will repeat myself a lot. So, you know, we hang out a while. You listen to the podcast, you probably go, oh man, you told that story 14 times in 40 episodes. Yeah. Right? But sometimes when stuff is good, it's worth repeating. And you know, one of the points that your dad has made is, what's your testimony? And you need to share your testimony, what God is doing in your life. Now, part of your testimony is your salvation testimony, but that's not your only testimony. What has God done since? What is God doing now? That's a part of your testimony. So some of what we're called to do is testify for what God has done. So we go, I don't know how to share. do you know what God has done in your life? Well, yeah, I think so. Yeah. Or I can point out a few things. Okay. That's what you're supposed to share.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Your testimony. Now, the
That's
other,
exactly right.
we're sharing the gospel, which is the unchanging truth of God, that Jesus is the Son of God, who is
Right,
God, and he died on the cross, paid for our sins, rose again. And we need to, believe in him and confess him. So, but we can overcomplicate that too. I don't know the right words to say. Like seriously, we just went over it. Like, that's it. I mean, that's the meat and potatoes. That's Jesus is it. I want you to know Jesus. But here's the thing I think too, DJ, and I see this in my own self. And I think it's one of the things God is helping me to realize. And I been reading a book. I finished a book, and the pastor was talking about how, and I'll probably butcher this, but basically that for the first 10 years of his ministry, he was looking at things wrong. And it wasn't, God kind of helped him see, because he was treating it like he was taking God to people. Like, my job is to take Jesus to people. So if I don't take Jesus to people, then Jesus isn't there. Well, that's no. God's already there. God's already working in their life. Our job, I think, again, more often than not, is just to go, hey, look at Jesus. He's right here. Look at how he's been working in your life. He's been pulling you to this point. What does he say to Paul? Right, where he saw, what is it? It's hard for you to kick against the bricks, against the goads. Hey, guess what? God had been drawing Saul to that moment. Yeah. Now, what I think is interesting is he still uses Ananias. I was like, Saul just has an encounter with Jesus himself. And he's like, but he still uses you, Ananias, to go, which again was just as much for Ananias as it was for Saul. Yeah. It's like, but no, he'll kill me. Do you know this guy?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I know him. I know him a lot better now. I mean, he knows me. Maybe
he knows me a lot better now. Yeah, right. He
knows me a lot better now. Yeah. I think you're going to find him a different guy, Ananias. All right, God, I'll see you in a minute. He's going to kill me.
Well, yeah, and Brad's a good word. I've heard a lot of testimonies of atheists who come to faith, who oftentimes will say that during the transition from atheism to theism, that they recognized after the fact where God was all along the way, not just during the transition, but well beforehand. But dude, it is 4:15.
Time for
I
you
gotta
to
boot.
go.
Yeah, man, it is. Yeah. So
I think
this is good convo.
I do. I think there's so much more that we can hit this. Can kind of bring it up at a different episode too, because I mean, there's so much more depth. I think my encouragement is to people: abide in Christ and seek to share. Yeah. But again, be reminded and let it take some of the pressure off. Jesus is already there. You're not taking them to them, but you're helping them see. Hey, right. And so be prayerful, follow his spirit. And when he tells you to turn around and go back to the car that you don't want to, do it. When he tells you to go take the Gospel of John and give it to him, even though you already said goodbye once, just do it. It's okay. God will push us out of our comfort zone.
That's right.
But he's a good father. So just trust him.
Well, listeners, you guys know what to do. We love that you love our show. Rate and review us. Go ahead and give us a rating. It doesn't take long. Give us a review, a little comment. Let us know what you think about the show. If you like the show, share it with people that you know, and connect with us on our Facebook group, Men Church Stuff Facebook group, or our Instagram handle is @menchurchstuff. Give us a shout out. Give us some questions, some topics to talk about, and I mean we'll get them up. So Other than that, Brad, love you, buddy.
All right. Love you too.
Listeners, we will catch you next time.